Three things I learned my first month on Maple Street. The kitchen floor creaks, the back door doesn't lock right, and when your 80-year-old neighbor tells you not to answer the door on Christmas Eve, you don't ask questions. You just don't answer.
I move into the house on Maple Street on December 3rd, carrying cardboard boxes through air so cold it burns the inside of my nose. The house is a foreclosure, a squat ranch with aluminum siding the color of dirty snow and windows that rattle when the wind pushes against them. I'm 29, recently divorced, and the mortgage is cheaper than my last apartment. The floors creak in a pattern I'll learn, loud near the bathroom, silent in the center of the living room, a single sharp pop by the kitchen threshold. The neighborhood is older than I expected. Ranch houses and split levels from the 50s and 60s, most with chain-link fences and naked trees in the yards. Christmas lights are already up on some of them, blinking red and green through the early winter dusk. My house came empty except for a water heater and a smell, something like old carpet and the metallic tang of pipes that haven't been used in months. I meet Mrs. Kowalski on the fourth day. She's in her 70s, maybe 80s, with a quilted coat and orthopedic shoes, standing at the property line with a Tupperware container of cookies. Her hands shake slightly when she passes it to me, and I can smell vanilla and something sharper, like almond extract. "Thank you," I say, taking the container. The plastic is warm. She nods, looking past me at the house. Her eyes are pale, watery blue. "You settle him in all right." "Getting there." She shifts her weight, and I hear the small crunch of frozen grass under her shoes. "I should tell you something." I wait. The wind picks up, and I can feel it through my sweater. "If carolers come on Christmas Eve, don't answer the door." I blink. "Sorry?" "Don't answer. Don't look. Just leave the lights off and wait until they go." She's already turning away, shuffling back toward her house before I can respond. I stand there holding the cookies, watching her disappear through her side door. The container is cooling in my hands. Inside, I eat 3 cookies at the kitchen counter. They're good, soft, with a crisp edge. The kitchen window faces her house, and I can see the blue glow of her television through her curtains. I unpack slowly over the next 2 weeks. The house has a layout that makes sense once you walk it enough times. Living room at the front with a big window facing the street, kitchen in the back with a door to a small concrete patio, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom down a short hallway. The thermostat is loud, clicking on with a metallic snap that I hear from anywhere in the house, followed by the rush of air through the vents. At night, the refrigerator hums in cycles, 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off. I work remotely, writing ad copy for a firm in Chicago. My desk goes in the second bedroom, facing the window that looks out at the side yard and the narrow gap between my house and Mrs. Kowalski's. I can see her kitchen from there. Sometimes I watch her move around, a small figure in a floral housecoat, opening cabinets and filling a kettle. The divorce is 8 months behind me, but I still reach for my phone at odd times, thumb hovering over Amanda's contact before I remember. The house is quiet in a way the apartment never was. No neighbors above me, no muffled arguments through the walls, just the wind and the furnace and my own footsteps on the laminate floors.
December builds slowly. I buy a small plastic tree at Target and set it up in the corner of the living room near the window. The lights blink in a programmed sequence, white, then blue, then white again. I leave them on most nights, a low glow that makes the room feel less empty. On December 18th, I notice the kitchen door doesn't latch properly. The bolt slides into the strike plate, but there's a slight give when I push on it, as if the frame has warped. I make a note to fix it and forget. On December 21st, I hear carolers for the first time. Real ones, a church group going door to door in the early evening. I open the door to a cluster of teenagers in puffy coats, holding printed song sheets and singing "Joy to the World" with more enthusiasm than skill. I smile, tell them they sound great, and close the door. They move on to Mrs. Kowalski's house, but she doesn't answer. I watch through the kitchen window as they knock twice, wait, then continue down the street. On December 23rd, I'm working at my desk when I hear a scraping sound outside, metal on concrete. I look out and see nothing, just the side yard and the chain link fence and the gray sky pressing down. The sound doesn't repeat. Christmas Eve comes clear and cold, the kind of cold that makes the street lights look sharper. I finish work at 5, heat up leftover chili, and settle on the couch with my laptop. The house ticks and groans as the temperature drops outside. At some point, I turn off the overhead lights and leave just the tree lights on, their slow pulse reflecting off the window glass. At 11:47 p.m., the doorbell rings. I jolt, my laptop sliding off my thighs onto the couch cushion. The sound is loud, a two-tone chime that echoes through the house. I sit there, heart accelerating, blinking at the door. The doorbell rings again. I stand, crossing the living room in 4 steps, and peer through the peephole. The porch light is on, I never turn it off, and I can see them there. 6 people, maybe 7. Adults and children arranged in 2 rows like a choir. They're wearing old-fashioned clothes, wool coats with wide lapels, the kind you see in black and white photos. The women have scarves tied under their chins. One of the children, a girl, is wearing a velvet dress with a lace collar. They're singing. I can hear it through the door, muffled but clear. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Close your eyes and do not wake. Morning comes, but you won't wake. I step back from the door. They keep singing, their voices blending in perfect harmony. The melody is right, but the lyrics curl and twist into something else. I catch fragments: sleep forever, never cry, stay together, never die. My phone is on the couch. I retrieve it with clumsy hands and open the doorbell camera app. The image loads in grainy black and white. The porch, the carolers standing perfectly still between verses, their mouths open in song. The porch light is bright, a single bulb casting a sharp cone of white light.
They have no shadows. I stare at the screen. The light is directly above them, and there should be shadows, long, dark shapes stretching across the porch boards. But the concrete is evenly lit, unbroken. The song ends. There's a pause, 5 seconds of silence, and then they begin again. A different song this time, something I almost recognize. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a final rest. We wish you would open the door now and join us with all the rest. I lock the deadbolt. It's already locked, but I turn it anyway, feeling the bolt seat firmly. They sing for 4 minutes. I time it on my phone, watching the seconds tick by. Then they stop. I wait, holding my breath, and hear the shuffle of footsteps moving off the porch, down the walkway, and onto the street. I look through the peephole again. The porch is empty. My hands are shaking. I sit back down on the couch and pull up the doorbell camera's recorded footage, scrubbing back to 11:47. The carolers appear at the edge of the frame, walking up the path in a tight group. They arrange themselves on the porch, faces tilted upward, and begin to sing. Their mouths move in unison. The girl in the velvet dress stands in the front row, hands clasped in front of her. The footage has no audio, but I can see their breath in the cold air, small clouds of vapor that dissipate quickly. No shadows. I close the app and search. Carolers, no shadows, meaning. The results are Christmas folklore, urban legends, nothing useful. I try Maple Street, Indianapolis, 1952. The first result is a scanned newspaper article from the Indianapolis Star, December 26, 1952. Family of 5 found dead in apparent murder-suicide. Police discovered the bodies of Harold Pritchard, 42, his wife Eleanor, 39, and their 3 children, Catherine, 12, Thomas, 9, and Mary, 6, in their home on Maple Street on Christmas morning. Authorities believe Mr. Pritchard administered poison to his family before taking his own life. Neighbors reported that the family had been practicing Christmas carols in the weeks prior, with plans to perform for the neighborhood on Christmas Eve. Mr. Pritchard had recently lost his position at... I stop reading. My chest feels tight, compressed. I look at the door, then back at the screen. At 12:51 a.m., the doorbell rings again. I don't move. I sit on the couch, phone in my lap, and listen. They sing. A different song, slower. God rest ye merry gentlemen. Let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born to take us away. I open the doorbell camera. They're back, standing in the same formation. Same clothes. The man in the front row has a thin face and deep-set eyes. He's looking directly at the camera. They sing for 3 minutes and leave.
At 1:53 a.m., they return. This time I'm standing in the kitchen, drinking water I don't want, trying to convince myself to go to bed. The doorbell chimes and I freeze, the glass cold against my palm. The singing is louder now, more insistent. O come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant, O come ye, to where the silent slumbered. I check the camera. The same group. The girl in the velvet dress is smiling now, a wide, fixed smile that doesn't move as she sings. They leave after 2 minutes. At 2:47 a.m., they come back. At 3:39 a.m. At 4:28 a.m. Each time earlier than the last. Each time closer together. I stop checking the camera. I sit in the dark living room, tree lights off, and listen. The songs change, but the pattern doesn't. They ring the bell, they sing, they leave. At 5:14 a.m., I hear them on the porch again, but the doorbell doesn't ring. I hear footsteps, the creak of weight on the boards, and then the singing starts. Low, almost a whisper. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the waiting King, peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. I crawl to the window, staying below the sill, and peer out from the corner. They're standing on the porch, facing the door. The man in front raises his hand and knocks. 3 slow, deliberate knocks that echo through the house. I can see their faces more clearly now in the pale wash of pre-dawn light. Their skin is waxy, smooth.
Their eyes are open too wide. The knocking stops. The girl in the velvet dress tilts her head, looking at the window where I'm hiding. Her smile widens. They begin to sing again, and I realize they're not breathing between phrases. The melody is continuous, unbroken. I scramble back from the window, pressing myself against the wall. My heartbeat is so loud I can feel it in my skull. The singing stops. Silence. I wait, counting seconds in my head. 30, 40, a minute. Then I hear it, the scraping sound from 2 days ago, metal on concrete, but closer now. It's coming from the back of the house, the kitchen door. I move through the dark hallway, my socks sliding on the floor. The kitchen is gray with early light, and I can see the door. The handle is turning. The bolt is in place, but the door pushes in inward slightly, straining against the lock. I can see the gap, a thin line of darkness where the door doesn't quite meet the frame. The handle turns again, deliberate and slow. I grab my phone and dial 911, my fingers slipping on the screen. 911, what's your emergency? Someone's trying to break into my house. My voice is hoarse, barely above a whisper. What's your address? I give it to her, watching the door. The handle has stopped moving, but the door is still pushed inward, held against the bolt. Are you in a safe location? I'm in the kitchen. They're at the back door. Okay, stay on the line. Officers are on their way. The door releases suddenly, settling back into the frame. I hear footsteps again, moving around the side of the house. They're leaving, I say. Stay inside. Don't open the door until the officers arrive. I move back to the living room, phone pressed to my ear, and look out the front window. The street is empty. The sky is lightening to a dull gray. The police arrive at 5:47 a.m. 2 officers in a patrol car, their lights flashing red and blue across the houses. I open the door, and the cold air rushes in, smelling like exhaust and frozen ground. Mr. Webb? The first officer is young, maybe mid-20s, with a buzz cut and a flashlight in his hand. Yes. You reported someone trying to get in through your back door? Yes, and there were... I stop. How do I explain? There were what? Carolers. They kept coming back, all night, every hour, and then more often, and then they were trying the door. The second officer, older with a gray mustache, exchanges a glance with the first. Carolers? Yes, a group of them, 6 or 7 people. They rang the doorbell and sang, and then they came back, over and over. Did you get a look at them? Yes, I have footage. I pull up the doorbell camera on my phone and show them the recording from 11:47 p.m. They watch in silence. The younger officer leans in, squinting at the screen. That's definitely strange, he says. You recognize any of them? No. And they tried your back door? Yes. The handle was turning. They ask me to show them. We walk through the house to the kitchen, and I point at the door. The older officer tries the handle, pushing on it, testing the bolt. Lock seems solid, he says, but the frame's got some give. You should reinforce it. They check the exterior, walking the perimeter with their flashlights. I wait in the kitchen, my arms wrapped around myself. The house feels too big, too exposed. When they come back, the younger officer shakes his head. No signs of forced entry. No footprints in the frost either. What about the carolers? We'll keep an eye out. If they come back, call us again. They leave at 6:20 a.m. I lock the door behind them and stand in the living room, watching the patrol car pull away.
The street is quiet. The house is dark, except for a few porch lights. I don't go to bed. I sit on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, and watch the sun come up, a pale, colorless light that spreads across the snow in the yards. At 7:30 a.m., I hear my phone buzz, a text from an unknown number. "We'll see you tonight." I stare at the screen. My hands are numb. Another text. "You can't keep us out forever, Marcus." I drop the phone. It lands on the couch cushion, screen up, the messages glowing. I grab it and call 911 again. 911, what's your emergency? I'm getting threatening texts from the people who were at my house earlier. What's your address? I give it again. She puts me on hold, and I hear the faint click of a transfer. A different voice comes on, male, official. "Mr. Webb, this is Sergeant Dalton. The officers who responded earlier filed a report. What's the new issue?" I'm getting texts, threatening texts. They know my name. "Can you read them to me?" I read them, my voice shaking. "Okay, we'll send someone back out. In the meantime, don't respond to the texts. Save them as evidence." The patrol car returns at 8:15 a.m. Same two officers. I show them the texts. "Did you give your number to anyone recently?" "No." "Any idea how they got it?" "No." They take screenshots, ask a few more questions, and tell me they'll follow up. When they leave, I lock the door and lean against it, my forehead pressed to the cold wood. I check the doorbell camera footage again, scrubbing through the hours. The carolers appear at 11:47 p.m., then 12:51 a.m., then 1:53 a.m., each visit earlier than the last. But at 5:14 a.m., when I heard them knocking, the camera shows nothing. The porch is empty. The timestamp runs, and there's no movement, no figures. I rewind and watch again. Nothing. I walk to the kitchen and examine the back door. The bolt is in place, the handle still, but when I push on the door, I feel the same give, the same slight gap. I spend the rest of Christmas Day reinforcing the door. I drive to a hardware store and buy a security bar, a deadbolt reinforcement plate, and a motion sensor light for the back patio. I install them slowly, methodically, checking each screw and bolt twice. The sun sets at 5:23 p.m. I turn on every light in the house and close all the curtains.
At 7 p.m., I hear singing. It's faint, distant, coming from somewhere outside. I stand in the living room, listening. Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. Join us now, don't be so lonely, fa la 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 la. I check the doorbell camera. The porch is empty. The singing continues, growing louder. It's coming from multiple directions now, front, back, sides. I move through the house, trying to pinpoint the source, but it's everywhere, seeping through the walls. My phone buzzes. Another text. "Let us in, Marcus." I don't respond. I grip the phone and dial 911 again. 911, what's your emergency? They're back. The carolers. They're outside my house, singing. Are they on your property? I don't know. I can hear them, but I can't see them. Stay inside, we'll send someone. The singing stops abruptly. I stand in the kitchen, phone to my ear, and listen to the silence. "Sir, are you still there?" Yes. They stopped. Okay. Officers are on the way. The patrol car arrives at 7:34 p.m. Different officers this time. A woman with short hair and a man with a thick neck. I open the door and explain again. The carolers, the texts, the singing. They search the yard with flashlights, walking the perimeter, checking the street. When they come back, the woman shakes her head. "No one out here, Mr. Webb.
No footprints, no signs anyone was around. But I heard them. Could have been a radio, maybe, or someone inside a car. No, it was outside, all around the house. The man shifts his weight, his duty belt creaking. We'll do another pass through the neighborhood. If you see or hear anything else, give us a call. They leave at 7:52 p.m. I watch them drive away, the taillights disappearing around the corner. The singing starts again at 8 p.m. Louder this time, a full chorus, and I can hear the words clearly. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. I run to the window and tear open the curtains. The street is empty. No figures, no movement. The singing is coming from inside the walls. I press my hands over my ears and back away from the window. My phone is buzzing, texts one after another. We're so close, Marcus. Can you hear us? We've been waiting for you. I throw the phone across the room. It hits the wall and clatters to the floor. The singing stops. Silence again. Absolute and suffocating. I stand in the middle of the living room, breathing hard, and wait. At 8:47 p.m., the doorbell rings. I don't answer. I don't look. The doorbell rings again and again, a steady rhythm every 10 seconds. I crawl into the bathroom, the smallest room, and lock the door. I sit on the floor with my back to the tub and close my eyes. The doorbell keeps ringing. At some point, I don't know when, it stops. I stay in the bathroom until dawn, listening. On December 26th, I search for the Pritchard family online. I find the original newspaper article and several follow-up pieces. Harold Pritchard lost his job at an auto parts factory in November 1952. Neighbors reported that he seemed withdrawn, distracted. The family practiced Christmas carols every evening in their living room, planning to perform door-to-door on Christmas Eve. They never made it out of the house. Police found them in their beds, dressed in their Sunday clothes, holding hands. The poison was strychnine, mixed into hot cocoa. The house they lived in was 42 Maple Street. My address is 42 Maple Street. I pack a bag and leave. I don't tell anyone. I just get in my car and drive to a motel off I-465, a squat building with a neon sign and a parking lot full of potholes. I rent a room for a week and sleep with the lights on. On December 30th, I hire a locksmith to change all the locks on the house. I have a security system installed, cameras, motion sensors, glass break detectors. I buy blackout curtains and cover every window. On January 3rd, I move back in. The house is silent. The cameras show nothing. No carolers, no texts, no singing. But I don't sleep well. I wake up at 11:47 p.m. every night, my heart racing, listening for the doorbell. I check the cameras compulsively, scrubbing through hours of footage, looking for something I know isn't there. I keep the lights on. All of them. I avoid the back door. I've reinforced it twice more, added another deadbolt, but I still feel the give when I test it. I never stand with my back to it. Mrs. Kowalski doesn't come by. I see her sometimes through her kitchen window, moving slowly, a dim figure in the blue television glow. In February, I research the Pritchard family further. I find a genealogy site with a family tree. Harold and Eleanor, Catherine, Thomas, Mary.
No living relatives listed. The house on Maple Street was sold in 1953, changed hands 6 times before the foreclosure. I try to find photos. There are none in the newspaper archives, none in public records. But I remember their faces. The man with the thin face and deep-set eyes. The girl in the velvet dress, her smile too wide. The way they stood, perfectly still, mouths open in song. At night, when I lie in bed and stare at the ceiling, I hear it sometimes. Faint, distant, just at the edge of perception. Singing. I tell myself it's the wind, the furnace, the house settling, but I know what it is. They're still out there, waiting for next Christmas Eve.
I pull onto Coldwater Road at 4:47 p.m., and the light is already bleeding out of the sky. December 24th in northern Vermont doesn't give you much daylight to work with, and I've been driving since 6 this morning. My back aches where the seatbelt digs in. The heater in the truck smells like burning dust and old coffee. I've got one package left, a medium flat-rate box, maybe 8 pounds, addressed to occupant at 1847 Coldwater Road. No return address, no sender name, just a barcode and a processing stamp from the Burlington hub dated 2 days ago. The road narrows as I climb. Bare maples crowd both sides, their branches black against the dimming blue. Snow lies in the ditches, gray and compacted. I can smell pine through the vents, sharp and clean. My hands are tight on the wheel. I've been doing this route for 3 years, covering the mountain communities west of Montpelier, and I know most of the addresses by heart, but 1847 is new to me. It's marked on my scanner as a seasonal edition, flagged for holiday overflow. I live alone in a duplex in Bear. 34 years old, divorced for 2. My ex-wife, Sarah, moved to Burlington with her new husband last spring. I see her parents at the grocery store sometimes, and we nod but don't speak. My route keeps me busy enough that I don't think about it much. I eat dinner in front of the TV. I wake at 5. I drive until the scanner tells me I'm done. The farmhouse appears through the trees like a broken tooth. Clapboards peeling, front porch sagging on one side. 2 upstairs windows are shattered, the glass still hanging in jagged triangles. The yard is waist-high in dead weeds and sumac. A stone chimney leans away from the roofline. I slow the truck and check the scanner. The address matches. I pull into the gravel turnaround and leave the engine running. My breath fogs as I step out. The cold bites through my jacket immediately, maybe 15 degrees, dropping fast. I can hear the wind moving through the trees, a low, persistent hiss. No other sounds. No dogs, no wood smoke. The house sits in a clearing about 50 yards across, bordered by forest on 3 sides. There are no power lines, no mailbox, just the gravel drive, rutted and iced over. I walk around to the back of the truck and retrieve the package. It's heavier than I expected, dense in the center. The cardboard is pristine, no scuffing or tears. I tuck it under my arm and start toward the porch. That's when I notice the footprints. Fresh prints in the thin snow leading from the tree line to the front door. Boot treads, size 10 or 11. They don't come back out. I stop halfway across the yard and scan the windows. Nothing moves inside. The prints are clear enough that I can see individual lug patterns. They were made within the last few hours, before the snow stopped this afternoon. I climb the porch steps. The wood groans but holds. The front door is painted red, or was once. Most of the paint has flaked away. There's no doorbell, no knocker. I set the package down on the mat and knock twice with my knuckles.
The sound is dull, absorbed. I wait. My breath streams out in white plumes. I knock again, harder. Nothing. I take a photo with my scanner to confirm delivery, then turn and walk back to the truck. The wind picks up as I cross the yard, and I can feel it cutting through my jeans. My fingers are already numb. I open the driver's door and slide in, pulling the door shut behind me. I turn the key. Nothing. I try again. The engine doesn't even turn over. No click, no whine, just dead silence. I check the ignition, the gear shift, the battery indicator. Everything looks normal. I try a third time. Nothing. My stomach tightens. I pull out my phone. No signal. One bar flickers and vanishes. I hold it up near the windshield, then the window. Nothing. I try calling dispatch anyway. The call fails immediately. I sit there for a full minute staring at the screen, waiting for a bar to appear. The cab is already cooling. I can see my breath condensing on the inside of the windshield. I get out and pop the hood. The engine looks fine. No leaks, no loose cables. I don't know much about engines, but I check the battery terminals anyway. They're clean and tight. I try the ignition again from outside, leaning in. Nothing. I close the hood and look back at the house. The porch light is off. The windows are dark. The footprints are still there, leading in. It's 5:03 p.m. Full dark will hit by 5:30. The nearest house I passed was 4 miles back down the mountain. I'm wearing a UPS jacket, a flannel shirt, jeans, and work boots. I have a flashlight in the truck, a tire iron, a half-empty water bottle, and a granola bar in the glove box. No blankets, no extra coat. The temperature is dropping fast, and the wind is steady now, gusting hard enough to rock the truck. I stand there for another minute, weighing options. Then I grab the flashlight and the tire iron and start back toward the house.
The porch steps creak louder this time. I shine the flashlight through the window beside the door. The beam catches a hallway, wood floors, a staircase leading up. Dust hangs in the air, thick enough to see. No movement. I try the door. It's unlocked. The hinges shriek as I push it open. The smell hits me first. Damp wood, mildew, something sour underneath. I step inside and close the door behind me. The temperature inside is maybe 5 degrees warmer than outside. I can still see my breath. The hallway stretches back into darkness. To my left is a front room, empty, except for a broken chair and yellowed curtains. To my right is a doorway leading into what looks like a kitchen. I shine the light down the hall. The wallpaper is peeling in long strips. The floorboards are warped and buckled. At the end of the hall is another door, closed. I move into the kitchen. There's an old gas stove, a porcelain sink, a wooden table with 2 chairs. The table is covered in a thin layer of dust, undisturbed. The cabinets are open and empty. I check the faucet, no water. I open the fridge. It's unplugged, the door hanging open, the interior coated in black mold. I back out and try the light switch by the door. Nothing. I go back into the hallway and shine the light up the stairs. The steps are intact but stained dark in places. I don't see anyone. I call out, "Hello!" My voice is flat and strange in the dead air. No answer. I wait, listening. The wind rattles something loose outside. A shutter, maybe. I move toward the back door at the end of the hall and try it. Locked from the inside, with a deadbolt and a chain. I leave it and head upstairs. The second floor has 3 rooms. The first 2 are empty, just bare floors and peeling plaster. The third is a bedroom. There's a metal bed frame with no mattress. A single chair by the window. The window glass is intact but filmed with grime. I look out and see my truck in the turnaround below, the hood a darker shape in the gray light. Beyond it, the trees are black silhouettes. I go back downstairs. The house is settling around me, small creaks and groans as the wood contracts in the cold. I return to the kitchen and set the flashlight on the table, pointing up so the beam spreads across the ceiling. I sit down in one of the chairs. The seat is solid. I take off my gloves and rub my hands together. My fingers are stiff and white at the tips. That's when I see the package. It's sitting in the center of the table, exactly where my flashlight is pointing. The same package I left on the porch. Medium flat rate box. No return address. The cardboard is clean, no dust, no marks. I stare at it. I didn't bring it inside. I know I didn't. I stand up and pick it up, turning it over. The label is the same. Occupant, 1847 Coldwater Road. The barcode matches. It's sealed with reinforced tape, the edges pressed flat. I set it back down and step away from the table. My heart is thumping now, hard and fast. I grab the flashlight and walk back to the front door. I open it and shine the light on the porch. The mat is empty. No package. I step outside and look around the yard. Nothing. The footprints are still there, leading to the door. I crouch down and study them. They're clear and deep, made by someone walking slowly, deliberately. They don't lead away. I go back inside and lock the door behind me. I'm breathing faster now, shallow and tight. I return to the kitchen and the package is still there. I approach it slowly, like it might move. I pick it up and shake it gently. Something shifts inside, soft and heavy. I set it down and pull out my phone. Still no signal. I try the door again. Still locked. I stand there in the kitchen, listening. The wind is louder now, a steady moan against the walls. The flashlight beam wavers as my hand shakes. I sit back down and stare at the package. After a long moment, I reach out and tear open the tape. Inside is a smaller box, wrapped in brown paper. I unwrap it carefully. Inside the smaller box is a plastic bag sealed with a twist tie. I open the bag. Inside is a wedding ring. I drop it on the table. It rolls once and settles. Gold band, thin and worn. I recognize it immediately. It's mine. The one I wore for 6 years and took off the day Sarah signed the papers. I sold it to a pawn shop in Montpelier 2 years ago for $60. I needed the money for rent. I pick it up with shaking hands. It's the same ring. Same scratches on the inside band, same slight dent on the outer edge where I hit it against a car door. I hold it up to the light. My breath is coming in short gasps now. I put the ring back in the bag and shove the whole package to the far side of the table. I sit there for a long time trying to think. The cold is settling into my bones. My feet are numb. I get up and walk through the house again, checking every room, every closet, every corner. Nothing. No one. I return to the kitchen and sit back down. The package is still there. I realized I didn't fully empty it. I reached inside and pulled out a folded piece of paper. The handwriting is printed, careful. It says, "You can leave when you deliver what you took."
I don't sleep. I sit at the table and watch the darkness outside the window thicken into solid black. The wind doesn't stop. It builds and fades and builds again, rattling the window panes, pushing cold air through gaps in the walls. My flashlight dims around midnight, and I turn it off to save the battery. The house is pitch dark, except for the faint gray rectangle of the kitchen window. I can hear mice in the walls, a soft scrabbling that moves from room to room. My breath comes out in clouds I can't see but feel on my face. At some point, maybe 1 a.m., maybe later, I hear something upstairs. Footsteps. Slow and deliberate, crossing the floor from the far bedroom to the top of the stairs. I freeze. The sound stops. I wait, my hand on the tire iron. Nothing else. I turn on the flashlight and shine it into the hallway. The beam catches the bottom of the staircase. Empty. I stand and move to the doorway, listening. Silence. I start up the stairs, keeping the light trained on the landing above. The steps creak under my weight. I reach the top and sweep the flashlight across the hall. All 3 doors are open. I move to the bedroom at the end and look inside. Empty. The chair by the window is in the same place. The floor is undisturbed. I go back downstairs and sit at the table. I turn off the flashlight. My hands are shaking so badly I have to clench them into fists. I close my eyes and try to breathe. I count to 10, then 20. When I open my eyes, there's a shape on the table in front of me. Another package. I turn on the flashlight. It's a small padded envelope addressed to driver number 4, 1847 Coldwater Road. The handwriting is different, slanted and cramped. The postmark is from 1993. The envelope is sealed. I pick it up. It's light, almost empty. I tear it open. Inside is a keychain with 2 keys and a laminated ID card. The card has a photo of a man in his 40s, balding, with a mustache. The name reads Dennis Howell, UPS. The keys are car keys, old style, with a worn leather fob. There's a note inside, handwritten on the back of a receipt. It says, "I didn't take anything. I just wanted to get home." I set the envelope down and stand up. I'm breathing hard now, my chest tight. I sweep the flashlight around the kitchen. Nothing else. I move into the front room and check the corners, the window sills, behind the broken chair. Nothing. I go back to the kitchen. A 3rd package is sitting on the counter by the sink. This one is a priority mailbox, medium size, addressed to driver number 9, 1847 Coldwater Road. The postmark is 2008. I open it with shaking hands. Inside is a cell phone, an old flip model, the kind I used in high school. The battery is dead. There's a note written on a torn piece of notebook paper. It reads, "I tried to call. No one answered." I line the 3 packages up on the table and stare at them. My mind is racing, trying to make sense of it. I took the ring, I sold it, but I didn't steal it. It was mine. I think about the footprints outside, leading in but not out. I think about the locked doors, the empty rooms, the sounds upstairs. I think about the note, "You can leave when you deliver what you took." I don't know what I took. I don't know what this place wants. I sit back down and wait. The cold is unbearable now. I can't feel my toes. My fingers are stiff and clumsy. I tuck my hands under my arms and hunch forward, trying to conserve heat. The wind howls outside. I close my eyes. When I open them, it's still dark. I don't know how much time has passed. My flashlight is dead. I reach for it and press the button. Nothing. I set it down and feel my way to the window. I press my face against the glass. The sky is still black, no stars. I can barely make out the shape of my truck in the turnaround. I try the door again, still locked. I rattle the handle. It doesn't budge. I go back to the table and sit. My breath is shallow and fast. I'm shivering uncontrollably now, my teeth chattering. I need to move, to generate heat. I stand and pace the kitchen, swinging my arms, stamping my feet. It doesn't help. I'm so cold I can't think straight. I lean against the counter and close my eyes. That's when I hear the voice. It's soft, barely audible, coming from somewhere deeper in the house. A man's voice, low and even. I can't make out the words. I push off the counter and move into the hallway. The voice is coming from the back of the house, beyond the locked door. I press my ear against the wood. The voice stops. I wait. Nothing. I try the handle. Still locked. I step back. The voice starts again, closer this time. It's coming from upstairs. I move to the base of the stairs and look up. The darkness is absolute. I can't see the landing. I start climbing, one step at a time, keeping my hand on the rail. The voice grows louder. It's saying the same thing over and over, a single phrase I can almost make out. I reach the landing and stop. The voice is coming from the far bedroom. I move down the hall, my hands out in front of me, feeling for the doorway. I find it and step in. The voice stops. I stand there in the dark, listening. My heart is slamming against my ribs. I can hear my own breathing, ragged and loud. I take a step forward, my foot hits something soft. I crouch down and reach out. It's fabric, a jacket, heavy with a logo on the chest, a UPS jacket. I drop it and back toward the door. There's a shape in the corner. I can't see it, but I know it's there. I can feel it. A presence, motionless and silent. I freeze. My legs won't move. I try to speak, but my throat is closed. The shape doesn't move. I take a step back, then another. My heel hits the doorway. I turn and run. I'm down the stairs before I realize I'm moving. I burst into the kitchen and grab the table, gasping. My vision swims. I lean over, trying to breathe. When I look up, there's a figure standing in the hallway. A man. Tall, thin, wearing a UPS uniform. His face is in shadow, but I can see his eyes, dark and unblinking. He's holding a package. He takes a step toward me. I back against the counter, my hands scrabbling for the tire iron. He stops. He sets the package on the floor, then turns and walks back down the hall. I hear the back door open, then close, then nothing. I stand there for a long time, my heart racing. I can't move. I can't think. Finally, I edge toward the hallway and look down. The package is there, on the floor, just inside the kitchen. It's addressed to me, my full name, my home address in Bar. No return address. The postmark is today's date. I don't open it. I leave it there and back into the kitchen. I sit at the table and put my head in my hands. I'm shaking so hard I have to clench them into fists. I stay like that until the gray light of dawn starts filtering through the window.
At 6:15 a.m., I try the front door again. It opens. I step out onto the porch. The air is still and bitterly cold. The sky is pale and clear. My truck is where I left it, dusted with frost. I walk across the yard, my legs stiff and clumsy. I get in and turn the key. The engine starts immediately. I sit them for a long time, gripping the wheel. My hands are white and numb. I look back at the house. The front door is closed. The windows are dark. The footprints are gone, covered by a fresh dusting of snow that fell sometime during the night. I put the truck in gear and pull out of the turnaround. I drive down the mountain slowly, watching the road. My phone beeps. Signal restored. I have 17 missed calls from dispatch, 3 voicemails. I don't listen to them. I drive straight to the depot in Montpelier and park in the back lot. I sit there until the office opens at 8. I tell my supervisor the truck broke down. I tell him I spent the night at a diner in town and got a jump this morning. He's annoyed but doesn't push. I finish my paperwork and go home. I search for 1847 Coldwater Road on my laptop. The property records show the house was built in 1902. It's been abandoned since 1987, when the last owner, a man named Robert Fisk, died of hypothermia inside the house during a winter storm. The town tried to demolish it in the 90s, but funding fell through. It's been sitting empty ever since. I search for UPS drivers in Vermont, cross-referencing with missing persons reports and cold cases. I find 4. Dennis Howell, 1993. last seen delivering packages in the mountains west of Montpelier. His truck was found on Coldwater Road. No body recovered. Margaret Ortiz, 2001. Last seen on her route near the same area. Her truck was found abandoned. No body. Kyle Preston, 2008. Same story. Truck found, no body. Teresa Vance, 2016. Same. I print the articles and put them in a folder. I don't tell anyone. I install new locks on my doors and windows. I check every lock 3 times before bed. I sleep with the lights on. I don't sleep much. When I do, I dream about the house. I dream about the figure in the hallway holding the package. I wake up gasping, my sheets soaked with sweat. I stop driving the mountain routes. I tell dispatch I have a back injury and request city deliveries only. They accommodate me. I drive the same neighborhoods every day now. Familiar streets, familiar faces. I deliver packages to porches and doorsteps and mail rooms. I scan barcodes and take photos. I don't make conversation. I don't stay longer than I have to. I check my mailbox every day. No package has arrived. Not yet.
I don't usually go to office parties. The fluorescent lights in the break room make my head hurt, and I've never been good at the forced cheer that comes with Secret Santa or White Elephant exchanges. But Amanda from accounting had been persistent, and I'd already declined 3 invitations this month. So, on December 10th, I stood in a circle of coworkers I barely knew, holding a mug of lukewarm cider and watching people steal reindeer socks and scented candles from each other. When my turn came, I chose a small box wrapped in brown paper that had been shoved toward the back of the table. The paper tore easily, revealing dark wood inlaid with mother of pearl. A music box, Victorian from the look of it, with a tarnished brass winding key still inserted in the base. The lid opened smoothly when I lifted it, revealing red velvet interior and a small compartment that held another key, smaller, more delicate, with an ornate bow. Someone wound the mechanism before I could stop them. The cylinder turned, pins plucking at the comb, and Silent Night drifted out in a minor key I'd never heard before. The tempo was wrong, dragging in places, rushing in others. Several people glanced at each other. Amanda laughed nervously and said something about vintage charm. I took the box home because leaving it would have been rude. My apartment is on the 3rd floor of a converted industrial building in northwest Portland. High ceilings, exposed brick, original windows that rattle when the wind picks up off the river. I've lived here for 2 years, long enough that I know which floorboards creak and how long the radiator takes to clank to life on cold mornings. I set the music box on the bookshelf near my desk, next to the succulent I keep forgetting to water, and didn't think much about it. I work remotely 3 days a week, editing technical documentation for a software company downtown. My cat, Pepper, is a gray tabby who spends most of his time on the windowsill or curled on my lap while I type. My routine is predictable. Coffee at 7, work by 8, lunch around 1, evening walk along the waterfront if the rain holds off. I talk to my sister in Eugene every Sunday. I see my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, in the hallway most mornings when she's walking her Pomeranian. My life is small, contained, and mostly solitary by choice. The first nightmare came 3 nights after the party. I was standing in a parlor I'd never seen before, watching a Christmas tree adorned with real candles. The flames wavered in a draft I couldn't feel. A woman in a high-necked dress sat at a piano, her fingers moving over keys that made no sound. 2 children played on a rug near the hearth, a girl of maybe 6 in a white pinafore and an infant in a lace gown, barely able to sit upright. The girl was singing something. but her mouth moved out of sync with the melody drifting through the room. Silent Night. The dragging, wrong version from the music box. The girl picked up the infant, who didn't cry or squirm, and carried him toward a trunk in the corner. Brass fixtures, dark wood, the same inlay pattern as the music box. She opened the lid, and the infant's face turned toward me. Eyes too large, skin too pale, expression too knowing for something that young. I woke with my sheets damp and my throat raw as if I had been screaming. The apartment was dark, except for the glow of the streetlight through the window. Pepper was nowhere on the bed. I found him 20 minutes after I had checked the bathroom, the closet, and under the couch. He was in the dryer, curled in a tight ball, pupils dilated. The dryer door was closed. I hadn't done laundry in 3 days. I pulled him out and held him while he shivered. The dryer door has a magnetic catch that clicks firmly when shut. I tested it 3 times. It doesn't open on its own. I told myself he'd somehow gotten in before I closed it last time, that I'd been distracted and not noticed. Cats squeeze into strange places. It wasn't impossible.
The nightmare came back the next night, and the night after that. Always the same parlor, the same tree, the same children, but each time the dream lasted longer. I saw the girl close the trunk lid with careful deliberacy, saw her turn the small key in the brass lock, saw her place the key on the mantel before running to the window to watch snow fall. The woman at the piano never looked up. The candles on the tree burned lower. On the 4th night, I saw what happened when the girl finally remembered and ran back to the trunk. I woke up gasping, hands clutching at nothing. Pepper was gone again. I found him in the filing cabinet under my desk, the one I keep locked because it holds old tax returns and my passport. The key was still in my desk drawer, exactly where I'd left it. The cabinet's lock showed no scratches, no signs of forcing. Pepper was pressed into the back corner, behind hanging folders, his breathing rapid and shallow. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat on the couch with all the lights on, Pepper on my lap, and tried to convince myself there was a logical explanation. Cats are clever. Maybe he'd learned to manipulate the lock somehow. Maybe I'd left it open and forgotten. The music box sat on the shelf, its wood grain catching the lamplight. I hadn't touched it since bringing it home. The small key was still in its velvet compartment, and the winding key was still inserted in the base. I should have thrown it away then. Instead, I went to work. I made coffee, I answered emails. I pretended the tight feeling in my chest was just stress, just the approach of the holidays, just the rain that had been falling for 6 straight days. Portland in December is gray and close, the kind of damp that seeps into buildings and never quite leaves. My apartment smelled like wet brick and old radiator steam. That evening, I couldn't find my phone. I'd had it an hour earlier. I remembered setting it on the kitchen counter while I made tea. I called it from my laptop, heard the muffled buzzing, and followed the sound to the filing cabinet. Locked, key still in the drawer. I opened it with shaking hands. My phone was inside, tucked between folders, screen lighting up with my own incoming call. I stood there for a long time looking at it. Then I looked at the music box. The winding key had moved. It was turned slightly, maybe a quarter rotation, as if someone had started to wind it and stopped. I hadn't touched it. I was sure I hadn't touched it. The rain intensified outside, drumming against the old windows. Somewhere in the building, pipes groaned. Mrs. Chen's television murmured through the wall, the steady backdrop I'd learned to filter out months ago. Pepper was under the bed and wouldn't come out when I called. I made myself walk to the shelf, made myself reach for the music box. The wood was cold under my fingers, smooth except for one rough patch near the base where the inlay had chipped. I lifted the lid. The small key was gone. My hands went numb. I checked the velvet compartment 3 times, ran my fingers over every surface inside the box, tilted it toward the light. Empty! I looked on the shelf, on the floor, in the nearby books. Nothing. The winding key turned easily when I gripped it. Just a test, just to see if the mechanism still worked. The cylinder rotated, pins engaging, and Silent Night began to play.
That same dragging tempo, notes falling half a beat behind where they should be. I let it play for maybe 10 seconds before I stopped it, but my heart was hammering and my mouth tasted like copper. That night I wedged a chair under my bedroom doorknob and kept the lights on. The nightmare came anyway. This time I was inside the trunk. Darkness, absolute and smothering. The smell of cedar and mothballs. My hands, small hands, a child's hands, pushed against the lid, but it didn't move. The lock had engaged with a solid click I could still hear echoing. Air grew thick and hot. Somewhere outside, muffled by wood and brass, Silent Night was playing. I woke up on my bedroom floor. The chair toppled, my fingernails scraped and bloody from clawing at something in my sleep. The closet door stood open. I don't remember opening it. December 14th. I called in sick to work. My hands shook too badly to type, and I kept losing time, looking at the clock to find 20 minutes had passed with no memory of what I'd been doing. Pepper wouldn't leave the space behind the refrigerator. I put food and water where he could reach it and left him alone. The music box sat on the shelf, and I couldn't make myself throw it away. Every time I reached for it, my hands stopped. Some part of me needed to understand what was happening. Some part of me was afraid that getting rid of it would make things worse, as if acknowledging the impossibility would give it more power. Instead, I went to the library. The Multnomah County Library's history room is on the second floor, accessible by a creaking staircase that smells like old paper and floor wax. I signed in at the desk and asked for property records and newspaper archives from the Victorian era, anything relating to the Northwest neighborhood. The librarian, a man with gray stubble and kind eyes, helped me navigate the digital archives and pointed me toward the microfiche readers. I found the Whitmore family in the 1889 city directory. Bernard Whitmore, importer. Address on what was now Thurman Street, a block from my apartment. Wife Catherine, daughter Lily, son Benjamin, deceased 1888. The newspaper articles were brief. Portland Oregonian, December 26, 1888. Tragic accident on Christmas Day. Infant son of prominent merchant found deceased in storage trunk. Authorities ruled death accidental. Family request privacy in this time of mourning. A follow-up article from January mentioned the family had left Portland. Another from March noted the auction of the Whitmore estate. I found an itemized list in the auction records. Furniture, paintings, piano, music box with key. Music box with key. The library's overhead lights buzzed. Someone coughed on the other side of the room. I took pictures of everything with my phone, hands steady now that I had something concrete to focus on. Then I searched for Lily Whitmore. Nothing after 1889. No marriage records, no death certificate, no census entries. She was 6 years old when her brother died, and then she vanished from the record entirely. I left the library as afternoon faded into early dark, the kind of premature dusk that comes with winter storms. Rain fell in sheets, and by the time I reached my building, I was soaked through. Mrs. Chen's in the hallway, coaxing her Pomeranian back from the stairs. She looked at me, frowned, and asked if I was feeling all right. "Fine," I said. "Just wet." "You look pale. You should eat something warm." I thanked her and climbed to my apartment. The door was locked, exactly as I'd left it. Inside, everything appeared untouched. Pepper was still behind the refrigerator. I changed into dry clothes and made tea I didn't drink, staring at the music box. The winding key was turned a full rotation now. I hadn't wound it. I was certain I hadn't wound it. I picked up the box, carried it to the kitchen, and set it on the counter. The wood was cold and damp, as if it had been outside in the rain. I opened the lid. The velvet interior had a dark stain in one corner, shaped like a child's handprint. It hadn't been there before. My breath came shallow. I closed the lid and backed away. The counter was white tile, easy to see against, and I watched the box for any sign of movement. It sat motionless, just an object,
just wood and brass and old mechanisms. I didn't touch it the rest of the night. December 15th. I woke to Pepper's screaming. Not meowing, not hissing, screaming, a sound I'd never heard a cat make. I threw off the blankets and ran to the living room. The screaming came from the refrigerator. I yanked open the door and Pepper tumbled out, stiff and shaking, his fur rimed with frost.
The refrigerator had been closed. I'd heard it seal with that soft suck of rubber on metal when I'd put away groceries yesterday afternoon. The seal was intact. No gaps, no way for a cat to open it from inside or out. I wrapped Pepper in towels and held him near the radiator until his shaking eased. His paws were ice cold. His ears had gone pale. I called the emergency vet, was told to bring him in immediately, and spent the next 2 hours in a bright, antiseptic waiting room while they checked him for hypothermia and frostbite. The vet, a young woman with tired eyes, asked careful questions. Had I been keeping him outside? Had there been any access to cold spaces? I told her no, told her I didn't know how it had happened, and watched her expression shift into something professional and distant. She gave me instructions for monitoring him and sent us home. My apartment felt different when I returned. The air was colder, even with the radiator running. The light from the windows seemed dimmer. I put Pepper in his carrier and placed the carrier in my bedroom with the door closed, then went back to the kitchen. The music box was in the center of the floor. I'd left it on the counter. I was certain I'd left it on the counter. It sat on the tile now, perfectly centered between the table and the sink, as if it had been placed there with deliberation. My keys were missing. I found them in the freezer 10 minutes later, buried under a bag of frozen peas covered in ice crystals. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt the heat on my cheeks. My hands were steady, though, steadier than they'd been in days. I took the music box, walked to the bathroom, and dropped it in the bathtub. Then I went to find something to destroy it with. The hammer was in the utility drawer, rubber grip worn smooth from years of use. I'd bought it when I moved in, used it to hang pictures and assemble furniture. It felt heavy and solid in my hand. I stood over the bathtub and swung. The hammer bounced off the wood with a dull thunk and flew from my grip, clattering against the tile. My hand went numb from the impact, as if I'd struck concrete instead of wood. The music box didn't have a scratch. I tried again and again. The hammer left no mark. The wood didn't dent. The inlay didn't crack. After the 5th attempt, my hands were shaking too badly to hold the hammer, and I sank down on the bathroom floor, back against the wall, staring at the box in the tub. It was 4:37 in the afternoon. Gray light leaked through the frosted bathroom window. Somewhere in the building, someone was playing music, something cheerful and bright that made my teeth ache. I called my sister. She picked up on the 3rd ring, and I heard my nephew laughing in the background. Normal sounds, safe sounds. I tried to explain what was happening, but the words came out disjointed and strange. She listened, then asked if I'd been sleeping enough, suggested I see a doctor, said the holidays were stressful and maybe I needed a break. "Can I come stay with you for a few days?" I asked. "Of course. When?" "Now. Tonight. I'll drive down." Silence on the line. Then, "Emma, it's a 3-hour drive in the rain. It's almost dark. Why don't you wait until morning?" Because morning might be too late. Because I was afraid of what I'd find if I stayed another night. But I couldn't say that without sounding unhinged, so I agreed to wait and ended the call.
The music box was no longer in the bathtub. I checked the bathroom 3 times, looked behind the toilet and under the sink. It was gone. I searched the apartment, moving faster and faster, opening cabinets and closets and checking every surface. Nothing. Then I heard it. Silent night, drifting from my bedroom, in that dragging, wrong tempo. I stood in the hallway for a long time before I opened the door.
The music box sat on my nightstand, lid open, cylinder turning. Pepper's carrier was on the bed where I'd left it, but the door was ajar. Pepper was gone. The closet door stood open. The small brass key lay on the floor, bright against the dark wood. Behind the hanging clothes, pressed into the corner where the wall met the back panel, was a trunk. Dark wood, brass fixtures, mother-of-pearl inlay in the same pattern as the music box. It hadn't been there this morning. My hands were cold and steady when I picked up the key. It was smaller than I'd expected, light enough to barely register. The trunk's lock was tarnished brass, the keyhole shaped like an elongated oval. The key slid in smoothly. I didn't turn it. Instead, I knelt and pressed my ear to the trunk's side. Breathing, soft and rapid and wrong, like something small struggling for air. "Pepper?" My voice cracked. The breathing stopped. I turned the key. The lock clicked. I lifted the lid. Pepper wasn't inside. A child was. She wore a white pinafore dress, now gray with dust and age. Her hair hung in lank curls around her face. Her skin was pale, bloodless, the color of old wax. Her eyes were open, fixed on mine, and her mouth moved soundlessly around words I couldn't hear. Her hands were small. Her nails were broken and bloody. She'd been locked inside for a very long time. I fell backward, scrambling away from the trunk, my shoulders hitting the hanging clothes. The child didn't move, just sat there staring, mouth working. The smell hit me then, cedar and mothballs and something underneath, something sweet and rotted that crawled into my throat and stayed there. I don't remember getting out of the closet. I remember hitting my shin on something, remember the burst of pain that barely registered. I was in the hallway, then in the living room, grabbing my phone with fingers that wouldn't cooperate. 911, 2 rings. 911, what's your emergency? In my closet, I couldn't finish, couldn't make the words form. Ma'am, I need you to tell me what's happening. Are you in danger? There's a child in a trunk in my closet. I don't know how. The operator's voice shifted, became sharp and focused. She asked for my address, asked if I was safe, asked if the child was breathing. I answered without thinking, some automatic part of my brain handling the responses while the rest of me shook. She told me to leave the apartment, told me to wait in the hallway or outside the building, told me police and EMTs were on the way. I grabbed my coat and keys from where I'd left them, not in the freezer, back on the hook by the door, and stumbled into the hallway. Mrs. Chen's door opened. She looked at me, eyes widening. "What's wrong?" I couldn't answer. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and waited. The police arrived in 7 minutes. 2 officers, a man and a woman, both young and wary. They asked questions I barely heard, then entered my apartment with hands on their belts. I waited. Mrs. Chen waited with me, her Pomeranian whining softly. The officers came out 4 minutes later. "Ma'am, there's no child in your apartment." I looked at them. "The closet, the trunk, she's in the trunk." "There's no trunk in your closet. We checked thoroughly." The female officer crouched in front of me, her expression careful. "Is there someone we can call for you? Family? A friend?" I went back inside with them,
made them show me. The closet was empty except for my clothes and the storage bins. No trunk, no brass key. The music box sat on my nightstand, closed, the winding key at rest. Pepper was on my bed, curled up and sleeping. The EMTs arrived and checked me over. Blood pressure, pupils, basic questions. I was coherent. I wasn't injured. They suggested I see my doctor, maybe talk to someone. The police took a brief report, documented the call, and left. Mrs. Chen stood in my doorway until they were gone, then offered to make me tea. I thanked her and said I was fine. She didn't believe me, but she left. I locked the door behind her and turned to face my apartment. Everything was exactly as it should be, exactly as it had been before I found the trunk. The closet light was still on, and I could see clear to the back wall. No trunk, no child, no evidence anything had happened at all. But the music box was wound. The cylinder had been played to its end, and the winding key was turned as far as it would go. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with Pepper in my lap and every light in the apartment burning. Outside, the rain continued its steady percussion against the windows. Inside, the radiator clanked and hissed. Normal sounds. Safe sounds.
At 3:47 a.m., I heard something in the kitchen. Not a loud sound, just a soft click, metal on metal, like a lock engaging. I stayed on the couch. Didn't move. Didn't look. The click came again at 4:15. Then at 4:52. When daylight finally came, gray and weak through the rain, I went to the kitchen. All the cabinets were closed. The drawers were shut. The refrigerator hummed quietly. Everything normal. Except my coffee mug was inside the oven. I'd left it in the sink the night before. I remembered rinsing it, remembered setting it on the drying rack. The oven was off, had been off since yesterday morning when I'd made toast. The door had been closed. I opened it with a dish towel wrapped around my hand, as if the handle might burn me. The mug sat on the middle rack, perfectly centered. December 16th. I called in sick again. Then I started searching. The Whitmore house was demolished in 1923, replaced by a brick apartment building that still stands on Thurman Street. I found property records, construction permits, surveys. The original house had been 3 stories, Queen Anne style, with a wraparound porch and a turret. In photographs from 1890, it looked abandoned. Windows dark, porch sagging, garden overgrown. No one had lived there after the Whitmores left. I found one more article buried in the archives of a Historical Society newsletter from 1967. A local historian researching Victorian-era Portland had interviewed elderly residents who remembered the neighborhood. One woman, Agnes Porter, then 93, recalled the Whitmore house. No one would go near it. My mother told me a little girl had killed her brother there at Christmas, locked him in a trunk, and forgot about him. They said she never spoke again after they found him, just hummed that carol over and over. Silent Night. Her parents sent her away somewhere, and the house stood empty. We used to dare each other to knock on the door, but no one ever did. We could hear music sometimes, coming from inside. A music box playing at night. I printed the article and sat at my desk, staring at it. Pepper had finally emerged from behind the refrigerator and now sat on the windowsill, watching rain streak the glass. He looked normal, healthy, as if nothing had happened. The music box was on the shelf. I'd put it there this morning after finding it on the bathroom counter, even though I didn't remember taking it to the bathroom. The winding key was partially turned again. I made a decision. I took the music box to my car, drove to the steel bridge and parked in the lot near the waterfront. The Willamette was high and fast from days of rain, brown water churning under the bridge supports. I walked to the railing, held the music box over the water, and let go.
It fell without sound, disappeared into the current, and was gone. I waited for relief that didn't come. That night, I heard it again. Silent night, drifting from my bedroom in that dragging, wrong tempo. I lay on the couch, rigid, listening. The melody played to its end, cylinder clicking as it completed its rotation. Silence. Then the sound of the winding key turning, metal grating against old mechanisms. The melody started again. It played all night. In the morning, the music box was on my kitchen table.
Water still dripped from its base, pooling on the tile. The wood was warped and swollen. The inlay had loosened, small pieces scattered around it like scales. But it was whole, functional, and the cylinder turned smoothly when I checked. I called my sister and told her I was coming to Eugene, today, now. She said to drive carefully, that she'd make up the spare room. I packed a bag, grabbed Pepper's carrier, and loaded my car. The music box was in the passenger seat when I got in. I took it out, brought it back to my apartment, left it on the kitchen table, locked the door, got back in my car. It was on the passenger seat. I tried 4 more times. The result was always the same. On the 5th attempt, I found a note tucked into the box's velvet compartment. Child's handwriting, pencil on yellowed paper. Come play with me. I drove to Eugene with the music box in the trunk, locked in a duffel bag I'd zipped and tied shut. Every few miles, I heard it playing. My sister's house is warm and bright and full of normal sounds. Cartoons on TV, my nephew's toys scattered across the floor, the smell of something baking. She hugged me when I arrived, held on longer than usual, and didn't comment on how I looked. I stayed for 3 days, slept on her couch, played with my nephew, tried to pretend everything was fine. On the 2nd night, I found my phone inside the locked bathroom cabinet. On the 3rd morning, my nephew opened the hope chest in the guest room and started screaming. He was fine, unharmed, but he'd been inside, he said, in the dark, and the lid had closed on its own. My sister watched me with careful eyes and asked what was happening. I told her I needed to go home. The drive back to Portland was silent except for the music box, playing its endless loop from the trunk. I stopped trying to understand, stopped trying to fix it. Some part of me had accepted that this wasn't something I could escape. I went back to the library, back to the archives. I found one more piece of information. Lily Whitmore had been institutionalized in 1889, sent to an asylum in Salem. She died there in 1891, at age 8. Cause of death? Self-starvation. The record noted she'd refused to eat, refused to speak, spent her days humming Silent Night and trying to open any locked door or container she could find. The attending physician's notes, preserved on brittle paper, included one final observation. Patient appears convinced her brother is still trapped, repeatedly requests key, becomes agitated when denied access to trunks, boxes, or closets, states she must let him out before Christmas comes again. December 20th. I'm back in my apartment, and I've made changes. I removed all locks from interior doors. I took the doors off the closets and left them in the building's storage area. I unplugged the refrigerator and left it open. I disabled the oven's door latch. I gave away my filing cabinet, my storage bins, any container large enough to fit something living. I sleep with my bedroom door open and the lights on. I don't own curtains anymore because they can close, and closed things aren't safe. Pepper stays at my sister's now. I drove him down yesterday. She didn't ask why. The music box sits on my kitchen table.
I wind it every morning and let it play to its end, because that seems to help. When it's silent, things are worse. Objects still move. I find my keys in the dish drainer, my phone in the empty refrigerator, my wallet in the oven. But nothing has closed on me yet. The nightmares are constant now. I'm in the trunk every time I close my eyes. Small hands pushing at a lid that won't move. Air growing hot and stale. Silent night playing somewhere outside. Sometimes I'm the infant, boneless and silent, watching my sister's face disappear as the lid closes. Sometimes I'm Lily, holding the key, trying to remember where I put it. Christmas morning arriving and my parents screaming, and I can't remember. I can't remember where I put the key. I don't sleep much anymore. 2 hours a night, if I'm lucky. My hands shake constantly. I've lost 12 pounds. I called in sick so many times they fired me last week. Sent the termination email with a note suggesting, I seek help. I'm seeking help. I have a psychiatrist now, Dr. Reeves, who prescribed medications I don't take because when I do, I sleep too deeply and I need to stay aware. I need to hear if something closes. Christmas is in 5 days. The music box is winding itself now. I watch it happen, the key turning on its own in smooth rotations, the cylinder playing and playing and playing. The melody has changed slightly, faster now, more urgent. The dragging tempo is gone. I researched the song's history. Silent Night was written in 1818. The original was in German, Stille Nacht. The version on the music box isn't quite right. The key is minor instead of major. The intervals are wrong. It sounds like a child trying to remember a song they heard once, getting it almost but not quite correct. Sometimes, late at night, I hear humming underneath the music box's melody. A child's voice, high and sweet and broken.